This video is going to be finishing up my Beatle book collection, rounding up the rest of the Beatle books that I have. This book is called The Beatles, A Private View, and it is photographs of Robert Freeman, who took the album cover photos for With the Beatles, I believe A Hard Day's Night, Beatles for Sale, and Rubber Soul. I don't recall, he may have taken the album cover photo for Help also. And this is a collection of his photographs. In addition to taking the album cover photographs, he also took a number of candid and sometimes posed pictures. That, if you recall, was on the cover of the Revolver album, one of the pictures that was part of that collage. This was the cover of the Long Tall Sally EP. So, Hard Day's Night. And this was an outtake from the Beatles for Sale, Help. And these were some pictures that were taken for John Lennon's first book in his own right. That was the back cover, or the inside the gatefold cover for Beatles for Sale. That, of course, was a picture that was included on the back of Rubber Soul. Rubber Soul? No, I'm sorry. Help. Sorry about the glare on some of these. So, that. This is the Beatles' complete recording sessions, and this chronicles every single recording date, recording session, notes for what took place during that particular session, photographs in the recording studio, studio notes. So it's a really, really helpful companion. What is this? So this must have gotten stuck in here. This was a advertisement when I bought the Anthology 2. Now it's just a bookmark. And it talks too about if there were any outtakes, any songs that were not released. But it's fun to, going through the Anthology collection and any bootlegs, try and track down when those particular songs were recorded and what the notes are from those sessions. So one of my favorite books for sure. This is a larger book. It just contains Beatle photographs. Nothing terribly special. The photographs are just a bit bigger. And so those were the largest books that I have. This is the Beatles in their own words, which is just pretty much interviews and quotes. good selection of pictures. This is a much older book. It's a Beatles Who's Who, and this was compiled by Bill Harry, and it's sort of an encyclopedia of different people throughout the Beatles' career. I don't want to open up this one too much just because the pages are starting to fall out a little bit because it is an older book. And Bill Harry, I remember in the movie The Complete Beatles, he was interviewed quite a bit. If anyone has seen that movie. Another one of those movies I wish would be released on DVD, but has not yet. I'm not sure why not. This is the Beatles, the Ultimate Recording Guide. And it pretty much details and records every single song the Beatles recorded. That includes bootlegs, solo stuff, everything from, it's a pretty thick book, everything from the Beatles all the way up to the Beatles solo stuff when this book was actually published, which was 1994. And it goes by recording dates. There's an alphabetical list of songs. This book is Beatles songs, and this is album by album, track by track. Information about each song, where it charted in both the UK and the United States, who was the author, if it was split, what percentage of each Beatle wrote what particular song, the recording dates, and any kind of miscellaneous tracks. I don't think there's any photographs in here, but it's a nice little, call it a bathroom reading book. It's a great one to have in the bathroom just because you can go through it and don't have to read it in one sitting. Or this is Beatles, Long and Winding Road, A History of the Beatles on Record. And it's another book that just talks about Beatles albums, Beatles singles, box sets, soundtracks, compilations. Has some pictures of advertisements and the album covers and single covers and artwork and things like that. But it's an interesting book to have. This is Beatles 66, which is a book that covers the entire year and just pretty much the cultural renaissance that was happening in the 60s and how the Beatles contributed and how they were also influenced by other artists and things that were going on at the time. This is the mammoth book of the Beatles. This one I actually do keep in my bathroom because it's good reading. It's got some old articles. It has the Maureen Cleave article where John talked about the Beatles being more popular than Jesus. It has reviews of each of the albums. This author makes the case if the White Album were one single album, which songs he would have included. The rest of the albums, it just includes his review. It has other contemporary reviews that were written at the time. Reviews some singles. So it's a very enjoyable read. This is the Beatles' Every Little Thing, which is just sort of miscellaneous facts having to do with different topics. Beatles' friends and influences, tours. This is the Beatles quote and unquote. It just has quotes from the Beatles. And pictures. And it's also in chronological order. And includes some solo stuff. This is a John Lennon companion, which compiles some different interviews and articles that were written about John. Here's a small section of pictures, more like drawings. So the Beatles day by day, so it's pretty much from the late 50s, I believe. No, well, I don't know. 1962 all the way through the solo years. And it's just what happened on what date. Some pictures in the middle of the book, but for the most part, it's just each year and what happened on dates in that year. These are some older books. This is Cynthia Lennon's first book. This is an old paperback. It looks like it was released in the 70s. Maybe, I don't know if it was before John passed away or not, but it's just a paperback book. This is a paperback book that has both of John Lennon's 60s literary works of poems and drawings and writings in his own right, The Spaniard and the Works. Pete Shotton wrote a book, and this is The Beatles, Lennon and Me, which Pete Shotton was a friend of John Lennon, and this is his memoirs of his time with the Beatles. This book, I think, dates back from the 60s. It looks pretty old. See what the date on this was. It's from 1964. So this was probably published shortly after the Beatles came to America. This is the private. The untold story from his sister, Julia Baird. It's another Beatles discography book that this one was published. This goes up through 1975. It was actually published in 75, so just pretty much album by album, single by single, both Beatles and solo years. And I think that, one more. This is a book of poems from Paul McCartney, Blackbird Singing. Some of them are Beatle lyrics. I think some are just other poems that he wrote. So anyway, I think that's my collection. Thanks for watching, and I hope everyone is safe and healthy and has a great weekend. Thanks for watching.